What's up guys, I'll be streaming for a few hours right when this video goes live, so go ahead and come and hang out. You guys saw the title, this is going to be one of the best builds I've ever made, and yeah, you're seeing correctly, I'm on a hunter. Yeah, and overall this is one of my favorite builds I've ever made. It's very intricate and has a lot of moving parts. And before we get into the video, today is the last day for round 1 of the G Fuel Madness. My code will still be 30% off as long as I'm still in the tournament, and round 2 will begin instantly at midnight the second the clock hits Saturday. And as of right now, we're looking pretty good to make it into round 2. So I wouldn't recommend doing a bulk order of any type today. I'd wait until tomorrow to do that because we really need all the help in round 2 to make it to the round of 16. And if we can make it to the round of 16, we're gonna have a real good chance at getting that Greg Shaker Cup. Anyways, let's begin with the video. And the hard part is, where do I even start with this build? There's so much going on. So the first thing we can do is just look at my stasis subclass and look at the aspects and fragments. So the important things of my abilities are Marksman Dodge and also Glacier Grenade. Then my first aspect will be the Grim Harvest, where whenever you defeat a slowed or frozen target, it'll create a stasis shard. These shards grant melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. Then the second aspect is Shatter Dive. Activate while mid-air to quickly descend and shatter nearby targets on impact. Then our 3 fragments of choice will be Whisper of Hedrons for the damage increase to our weapons. Then we also have Whisper of Impetus. Damaging a target with a stasis melee reloads your stowed weapons and grants you a temporary boost to weapon ready speed. And finally, last one is Whisper of Shards. Whenever we shatter a stasis crystal, we'll get a boost to our grenade recharge rate. Then every single time we shatter additional crystals, it will increase the duration of the benefit. So the first part of this build is just a ability spam build with both our grenades and also our melee. And whenever we throw down our Glacier Grenade, we go ahead and Shatter Dive it to shatter it and kill everything nearby. Then we also have the 2 slowing melees, which will chain between multiple enemies. So we have really good accuracy with our abilities, and the way we're getting them to be infinite is with this build right here. The first mod is going to be Elemental Ordnance, which is whenever we get a kill with our grenade, we'll spawn an elemental well that matches our subclass type. And that does work with the Glacier Grenades. And we have Elemental Charge. That way, whenever we pick up the Elemental Wells, we'll get 2 stacks of Chargeable Light on top of all the different ability energy that we get. And finally, we have 3 stacks of Firepower. That way, every single time we throw our grenade while Chargeable Light, we'll get 50% of it back instantly. And the last thing for the ability portion of this build is a kinetic weapon with Willspring or Demo, but I definitely recommend a Willspring weapon because it'll give you all 3 of your abilities back on kill. So now with everything going on, we pretty much just throw our Glacier Grenade, Shatter Dive it to create an Elemental Well, and kill everything nearby. We'll then create the Stasis Shards, which when we pick up will give us melee energy back. Then whenever we Shatter Dive the Glacier Grenade, we also will get an improved grenade recharge rate for 10 seconds. And all of that will also create Elemental Wells, which when we pick up we'll get ×2 Chargeable Light, and also a chunk of all 3 of our abilities. And then with those stacks of Chargeable Light, whenever we throw our next Glacier Grenade, we'll get 50% of it back. So you can pretty much just chain your Glacier Grenades forever with this build. Also, you'll have infinite melees, because anytime you kill a slowed or frozen target, you'll also get the shards, which means more melee energy. So overall, you pretty much have all of your abilities up at all times with this build. And on top of that, you have the Willspring weapon to just make it even easier. And the thing that is cool about having infinite melees in this build is with the fragment that we have on, whenever we do damage with a stasis melee, it will reload our stowed weapons. So pretty much we can like shoot our rocket, shoot our divinity, then swap over to our primary weapon and do damage with our stasis melee, and it'll reload both of them. It is on a cooldown, so you can only do it every 5 seconds. Now moving on to the second part of the build, which will be the damage part. Starting off with the Mask of Bacchus, every single time we use our dodge, we'll get Light Shift, which will increase our arc weapon damage, then also increase our damage versus slowed and frozen targets. So pretty much how this works is the scout rifle that is arc usually does 27-46. Then we go ahead and dodge and proc Light Shift. It will now go to 30-20. Then if we go ahead and slow the target also, it'll go to 33-22. So when you dodge with Bacchus, it'll increase your arc weapon damage by 10%. Then if we slow the target, it'll increase by 10% more. And the good thing about this helmet is it actually stacks with other buffs in the game. So if you have something like the Whisper of Hedrons fragment on, which we had, it'll go up even higher by another 25%. And all these different percents are all stacking. So we have 3 buffs that all stack, and that is very rare in this game. And as you guys might have guessed, we're using the Heretic Rocket Launcher, which is arc and comes from the Altar of Sorrow event. It comes with a pretty cool role of Impact Casing, Ambitious Assassin, and also Lasting Impact. So whenever you get a kill with this weapon and then reload, it will give you a 2 magazine. So you can go into a boss fight with 2 in the first magazine pretty much every single time. Then the second part, which will be just as important, is the Lasting Impression, which will delay the explosion of the rocket and increase the damage and blast radius of said rocket. And that is important because we're going to be using Divinity, which will be a debuff. And the thing about this debuff is it actually stacks with Sundering Glare from the artifact this season, where rapid precision hits against distant combatants weaken them for a short duration. And usually in the game, pretty much no debuff stack, so these two working together is extremely rare and probably will never happen again. As you see, if we use Div, it'll go up by the 30%, but now if we go further away and proc Sundering Glare also, the Scar Rifle damage will go even higher by another 20%. So right now with this combo, we have two debuffs, one of them being 30% and the one being 20%, and once again, they stack. So now all in all on our Arc Rocket Launcher, we're giving ourselves 3 buffs and 2 debuffs that all stack, for a total of 136% more damage, or 2.36x, which means in total, one rocket on Carl should be able to hit 221,000 damage. And one thing that is important to note is if you're not worried about infinite grenades, you can also use Whisper of Durance, which will increase the duration of all of our slow abilities, meaning one of those 10% buffs from Backrest will be there more often. So now pretty much how the full combo works is you get the damage boost from killing a frozen target, you go ahead and dodge to proc Light Shift, you stick the target twice with the 2 magazine, then you swap over to your Div, then you throw your Stasis Melee to slow the target and also reload your rocket, and finally you just hold down with Divinity to debuff the enemy. And the second you're done with all that, your rocket is already reloaded and you're ready to do the combo all over again. So overall there is a lot going on in the build. The only thing we pretty much don't have is a way to get our dodge back, but with tier 10 mobility you get it back in 11 seconds. So when you proc Light Shift, you cannot get your dodge back while the buff is going. So you have to wait 10 seconds, and once that's done, at worst, it'll take 11 seconds to get your next dodge back. But with a Wellspring weapon, you know, that will only take maybe 4 or 5 seconds. So now we have all 3 of our abilities back pretty much at all times, infinite uptime on all of them. Then we have one of the best like single target damage combos you can do in the entire game, and you're going to be pumping out so much damage. Another thing is you can use your dodge also to reload your weapon. So in theory, you can get off up to 5 rockets in a row with this build, and pretty much have the max damage buff and debuff possible for all 5 rockets. So overall there is a lot going on in that build. You have infinite of all of your abilities, which is really good for Aclear. Just going around and chucking the Glacial Grenades and Shatter Diving them is extremely fun. Every single time you do that, you'll get all kinds of Stasis Shards, which will give you infinite melees. You can constantly proc Light Shift. Then the second the buff is gone, it'll only take a handful of seconds to get your next dodge because of Wellspring. While you're doing all this, you're going to be proccing all the different Chargeable Light mods, all the different fragments. You're going to have all kinds of buffs and debuffs going, not only for your damage, but also for your ability recharge rates. Then whenever you get up to a high health target, you have that full combo with your rocket that pretty much gives you the highest buff and debuff combo in the entire game. And this is definitely a build that will work pretty much anywhere in the game. I think it might actually be like the way to go for GMs and also like raids if you're the guy using Div for your fire team. So as you can imagine, for a raid boss, you just stick them twice, then just swap over your Div and just hold the Div bubble the rest of the way for your fire team. Or in GMs, if you're the Div guy, you can just stick the champion first with your rocket, then div them for your, you know, 2 teammates using Izanagis or whatever, and just kind of help out and burst down the champion even quicker. So there's definitely a lot of things you can do with this build, and overall it's one of my favorite I've ever made. So many different moving parts that work together and just result in a really cool build. Before, it was kind of like a burden to be the guy using Div for your fire team, but now with this build, it's going to be the cool role, the role that you're going to be wanting to do. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for the video. The rest of the video will just be some strike gameplay. I was trying to find a boss I could do the full combo on without them going immune, and I tried Lake of Shadows, but there was a weird interaction with the shield and the lasting impression perk on rockets. Sometimes they just explode instantly whenever they touch the shield, so it didn't quite work too well, but I think you guys get the point in how this would work. Anyways, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.